Crank it up and piss off your neighbors.
You don't turn that down, I'm calling the cops.
The Mo Radio Show on the Showtime Worldwide Radio Network.
This one's for you, Brooke. Brooke, this song's for you. How I miss you, Brooke, since you've been gone. And how I wish you could stay. That's not possible, and that sucks. Cause you're the coolest thing I ever seen.
And this song has never been truer. She's back from Fox Sports Indiana, the Indiana Pacers, and the Pac-12 Network. Brooke Olzendam joins us. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks. I've missed you guys, and I have definitely missed that song. It's in my heart. I love that one.
Sweeping the nation. It's a lot to talk about. Obviously, the Pacers, an unbelievable start. Let's be honest, does this blow the mind of even the coaches and the players? Obviously, they knew they had a good team. They made some changes to have a great team. But would anybody have been sitting at this point going, you know what, yeah, this is the record. We're only going to have one loss at this point in the season?
Well, actually, funny you should say that because Lance Stevenson said we'd be 15-0. So he thought so. He's won. He started the season, actually, it's funny saying he thought they'd start off 10-0, and I asked him about it, I think when they'd won half of those, and he said, I'm going to up it to 15. So they're close. I mean, I really mean this when I say I don't think that they're surprised. It's a great start, and that's what they thought they would do last year. They had a very slow start at the beginning of the season, which I know that they kind of felt like they had to come back from. And the reason I think that every game is so important and that they've treated it as such this early in the season is because Coach Vogel, over and over, they want home court advantage. That is what he stresses all the time. I think it's kind of cool that he's talking about that all in the first, fourth, sixth of the season, that's still something that they're talking about, which obviously isn't for quite some time, but he wants to get that in their minds that we got to take care of business early in the season so that we can get that when postseason comes. So I'm not necessarily surprised. I'm proud of them. I mean, they've had a couple games where could have gone either way, and then they really pulled it out in the second half, which we've seen most every game. It's all about the second half, the adjustments that they make. So it's been fun to watch.
One thing about this team, we're talking with Brooke Olzendam from Fox Sports Indiana. Is it okay just to say host for the Indiana Pacers because you do so much there? I don't want to leave one of them out.
I appreciate it.
It was awesome watching the national game last week. When the guys were interviewed by ESPN, obviously leading up to it, ESPN is a humongous hype machine for themselves. But everybody the five starters and Coach Vogel sat down together. They didn't just talk to Paul George or didn't just talk to David West or Lance Stevenson. Everybody sat down together. The team concept, and like it was last year, has continued over, and it seems maybe even stronger this year. Does that amaze you when you look at some of the guys in this league who are amazing, standout all-stars by themselves, that this team still is a team no matter what they do?
Yep, and that's been really what has been, I guess, just nice for me to see, because I know these guys so well, is that there's, first and foremost, it's a team, and what they say all the time, togetherness. If you listen to post-game interviews, most likely, at least once a night, you'll hear togetherness, because that is really kind of the motto, the mantra of this team, and not surprising to me that they would sit down as a five-some. I mean, if you remember last year, after some of the playoff games, all five of them went to the podium when normally you just send one or two. And I just think that set a precedent last year that there's no way that this team can get to that level if there's someone becomes selfish or it's not so much a team, and that's why they care so much about that togetherness. And they really like each other. And I think also sometimes it's rare to get obviously a starting five back and such a successful starting five too. So they've known each other for a while. They play together. They like each other. They have fun with each other. And they don't want to leave anybody out. They don't want to no one wants to step away. Of course, Paul George, you've seen a different Paul George this year where he's taking more on himself. Maybe last year deflecting a little bit, and this year he's not. When games need someone to step up, he can do that. But it's still, if you talk to him after a game, he'll still give credit to his teammates. So this is a strong unit. On the floor, you see it. They communicate well, but they get along. They like each other, and they support each other. And I think it's just, I don't know how rare it is because I've just covered this team. I've covered a few, not as long as the Pacers, but I think it might be pretty rare, and it's pretty special.
One of the trends towards the end of the regular season last season was the Pacers would get down big and have to come back. At times it seemed like they kind of forgot that Roy Hibbert was on the floor offensively. After the loss of the Bulls, they go into New York, and it seems like Roy kind of disappeared offensively again for that game. Pacers come back and win it. And then, following games, he's back in the offensive mix. Was there a different trend? Was there a different feel to that Knicks game? He had 5 points, I think, going in to the half. 3 of them were on that three that he launched at the end of the first quarter. Was there a different strategy employed against the Knicks, or was it Roy just didn't get involved offensively? What was going on with the Knicks game in the first half?
Well, it's a little bit of both. The coaching staff would be the first to say, and they did after the game, that they'd like to get more touches from Roy. They'd like to look for him more. I mean, he's working so hard on the defensive end. It's only fair to get him some looks offensively. And, Roy is you've seen him last year, you've seen it this year. Sometimes he gets off to a slow start, but he needs more touches, and that's what they said. They'd like to get it to him. So we saw when he had his big game, it was 27 points, I believe, that they consciously made the decision and effort to look for Roy and get him the ball. And all the rest of the team was on board as well, saying we'd like to have Roy have a big game because he deserves it, and we want him to be a much bigger part of the offense because he's leading the defense, and we'd like him to be a bigger part of the offense. And they took it on themselves, too, to look for him in the paint. So he's now, I think, we won't see those games every night from him in the paint, but he's been a lot stronger offensively with his moves. He's really worked on his jump shot and his hook shot, and I've really been impressed with kind of his deep jumper when he's at the elbow or maybe a little further out. He's been practicing that a lot. So I think from that game on, I think that they'll look for him more, and they want to. They've always wanted to, but they just have so many weapons. You sometimes forget you have a 7-2 guy in the middle that can actually score as well. So he wants the ball, and they've made that effort to get it to him more. So I think that you'll see that coming up.
How much were free throws talked about after the Knicks game by the coaching staff? How much were free throws stressed after that game?
Yeah, that was an issue. That was a big issue. They practiced. That was the first thing they got to after that. And it's something you don't really see, though, from these guys. I mean, George Hill rarely misses a free throw, and then Paul, it's just something we haven't seen from them. Paul George is usually so clutch as well. It was bizarre. I had some of his friends at the game. They kept looking over at me when you missed a free throw. I'm like, I don't know. They're like, I don't know what's going on. It's not his style. But you can never really put your finger on why guys miss free throws. But yeah, that was an issue, and they did a good job of getting to the free throw line, which is first and foremost. But then of course you have to hit them when you get there. So yeah, there was a lot of practicing free throws after that, and from the coaches, and they did it on their own as well.
Talking with Brooke Olzendam, Fox Sports Indiana host for the Pacers games on television as well. It seemed like for the first couple of games this year, they couldn't find any minutes for Chris Copeland, and it seems like that's changed. He's shot the ball well. What was the difference in the coaching staff finally finding some minutes for Copeland and now making the most of it?
Well, they were kind of experimenting with him in different roles. He can play the 3 and the 4. So they were, at first, it was just kind of an unfortunate situation where they have, and they still do, obviously, so many good players. They just couldn't find a way to get him in there early. And I know that as soon as Copeland was signed with the Pacers, there was a lot of excitement. He had such a great year last year with New York, and I think they're just easing him into a role. And when he got some minutes a couple of games ago, late in the game, and he got his confidence really back up and hit a couple threes, that was huge for him. And it's just finding the right place for him. And he's very open to playing whatever the coaching staff would like him to play. And the 3, of course, is his strong suit. Over the summer, he worked a lot on his defense with both Rasheed and Ben Wallace, he told me. So that's part of his game that he, I think, would still like to see improvements in. But it's kind of a good, not a good problem to have, but I really don't know how else to say it when you have a guy that does have that talent, but you just have so many other guys that have the same or different talents that you need maybe more at a certain time. So I'm not concerned about Copeland's minutes. I think they won't be maybe as much as people thought, but he's still seen some time, and it's just I think he's getting more comfortable with the offense, and just he has to have a couple of maybe solid games in a row, and he'll get some minutes, but this team has so many weapons. We shall see.
When I was talking with David West and Paul George after a game a couple of weeks ago, they said that they feel a lot better about when the second unit comes on this year than last year. Last year there was some stressful situations where the second unit would fall apart. And has that been a big difference? Have you seen the guys from last year, the starters, have a comfort level about them that's different this year when they go to the bench and that second unit comes back on the floor?
Absolutely. It's been really night and day. Bringing in Luis Scola, I think, has just been absolutely huge. I mean, I really like him, actually, when he plays with David West together. I kind of like that lineup. But he's just someone that they can count on. Last year when they would go to the second unit, there was just a little bit of, you just didn't know what you're going to get. Not very consistent, which the year before had been more so. So it was kind of a difficult thing for the coaching staff to do. They have to, though, to give their starters some rest. You have to depend on that second unit. And this year, you just see the confidence in Luis Scola, and just 2 nights ago, it was really great to see Scola, and both he and Yamihi have nice games when they saw some minutes. So, yeah, there's a confidence level they have in that second group that perhaps wasn't there before, and the starters feel it too. And when you ask them what's been the biggest difference, they'll sometimes deflect and say it's the backups that come in, and it doesn't drop when they come in. Of course, you don't get the huge scoring and you don't get crazy plays, but you don't feel a drop off in the second quarter. Maybe a little bit of a lull because of that, just because it's the second quarter, but they feel so much more confident in going to that second unit and CJ Watson too. It's just a now unit that they can depend on, and I don't think they could have said that last year.
Sadly, it seems like every time we've talked over the last year, this question comes up. Where are we at with the injury with Danny Granger?
In the same place, day to day. I know it's the same question, same answer, and he's out he comes every game, he comes every practice, shoot around. He's on the bike a lot. Today he practiced a little bit. Not today. Shoot arounds are never strenuous or stressful, anyways. But he was there and chatted with him a little bit. He says it's just day to day, and it's more about making sure that he's completely healthy to get back out there. And with all these other injuries around the NBA recently, I think they're just being extra cautious and just making sure that he is 100%. And right now, they're rolling. You don't want to push it. I would say you don't want to pressure him to come back when he's not ready with this team doing as well as they are. So they're going to let him get back to 100%. But as of this moment, it is day to day.
Brooke Olzendam, Fox Sports Indiana, the host Indiana Pacers on television as well. I know that they're a rival in the division, the Chicago Bulls, but what was the feeling for the guys when Derrick Rose goes down again and out for the year?
Well, first of all, just after the game when they heard about it, they were just surprised and taken aback, and they just feel bad for him. That's just, you don't want to see that happen to anybody, but they went back and a lot of them looked at the play, and our trainers looked at the play and just to see what they thought. It's so unfortunate because the guy takes the time to really make sure he's healthy, and maybe even more time than people had hoped he would take, in Chicago at least, to come back. And it's just one of those things where you just feel bad for him. He did it all the right way, and he comes back and injures himself again, a different one. He's just a guy that this team, and I believe the whole NBA really does respect, and they like him. It's just tough to play against, but you don't want to see that happen to anybody. And yeah, it was just they felt bad for him. It's an unfortunate situation for anybody, but especially a guy of his talent that has gone through such a tough couple of years.
Has a trade buzz begin around Danny Granger again already this year down in Indianapolis?
I hear about it. I read about it, but not from this end. I wouldn't say that I've heard anything interior about him going anywhere else. They want to keep Danny. Having the Danny off the bench, or if he comes back and he and Lance go at it for that starting position, that I don't know. We'll have to see about that. But I don't think so. And you hear all the trade rumors, you hear the buzz, but Danny did so much for Indiana, and the front office likes him. They like his game, and they're waiting for him to come back. It's pretty much we'll wait for Danny to come back and see what happens. But I hear it and read about it on all the blogs, but I don't think there's really much behind it when it comes down to it.
Before we let you go, do some work with the Pac-12 network. Has Ed Ogeron done enough to earn that USC job? He's not maybe a big enough name, but has he done enough out there to earn that job, in your opinion? I'm impressed with him. I think so. It's a guy you didn't know much about, and then all of a sudden you see all these things he's been able to do. The big win on Twitter, that's all anybody was talking about. So I think we had a game that day, so I didn't get to see much of it. But to go into that league, which of course the Pac-12 you see a lot of, I would say upsets on the daily or on the weekly, which you don't expect to see. But I think he's been very impressive. Do you not think so? No, I would love to see him get the job. I just don't think that he's high profile enough for the job, in their opinion. He's a great recruiter, and I think they want him to be still be the assistant coach there, but I don't think that he's done enough. But I think the players buy into it, and they look like they're having fun. Unlike when Lane Kiffin was there, everybody looked like they were miserable on the sidelines. But no, I'd love to see him get the job. I don't think that he's going to wind up being the guy. Big game tonight in Charlotte. Charlotte's been playing better. Cody Zeller, who went to IU, going to be on the floor. Indiana on the road at times has gotten down early. What do we look for in the game tonight?
Well, I will say that very well could happen. I mean, that's kind of, we've seen that a lot. But you know what, this team today really practiced a lot defense, because this Charlotte team, they're pretty good offensively and good defensively, but they wanted to really get really good at their pass fakes and their second looks when it came to offense, because they do have the third best defense in the league, which, you know, I try to keep up on a lot of teams, and I didn't know that they were that high until I just started prepping for this game. So they do have good defense. He wants to see a lot of ball fakes. That was important. Shot fakes. They practiced that a lot today, because these guys, you know, they can get low, and he kind of wants to beat them at their own game offensively. And I think that, I don't know, I think it's going to be we're going to see a lot of good matchups in the paint. From where I watched today at practice, they really want Roy to, of course, be the anchor, but they want to make sure that guys can't get into the paint too. So their first line of defense, they practice a lot of that, make sure keeping guys out, don't let it all fall on Roy. So, yeah, Charlotte, I don't know. You never know what you're going to get with them. They're coming off a loss to Boston, so they'll be hungry, but they don't play well at home. It's odd. They play better on the road than they do at home, and they can't put their finger on that. Jefferson, I read an article today saying he doesn't know why in all his years he's played, he's never been on a team that can't seem to win at home. But I think that'll be a big matchup with he and Roy in the paint. But again, you never know. But all that matters is what happens in the second half. That's what this team has shown us.
So the telecast on Fox Sports Indiana starts what time tonight?
We'll be on at 6:30 pregame, just by pregame. And I wanted to just add to that, we will have Cody Zeller on the show as well. We'll hear from him.
Wow.
And Rick Pitino was at we have a great show tonight. And then last game, Rick Pitino was at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and we talked to him about his thoughts on what he thinks the Pacers can do. So that's on as well. So good show. You do not want to miss it.
Well, we appreciate you coming back on. As always, you're doing an awesome job. And I saw a post-game interview the other day with Jan Mahimi, and I expect the next time you talk to him for it to be all in French.
He's so funny. I love that guy. I need to brush up on him and impress him a little bit, because he always gives me grief on not knowing a single French word, but why would I? But I need to get better at that. Tonight
you can tell him, Je m'appelle Brooke. That means my name is Brooke. Je m'appelle Brooke.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
I learned something new on today's
3 years,
show.
3 years
Thank
of
you.
French. I know, and you might be the first person ever to learn anything on this show. But on Twitter, at Brooke Olzendam, Fox Sports Indiana, Pacers telecast tonight in Charlotte. Have a great Thanksgiving. Have safe travels, and it was great talking to you again.
You too. Thanks, bud.
There you go. I'm Brooke Olzendam, Fox Sports Indiana tonight, Pacers in Charlotte.